The emergency klaxons echoed through the crystal corridors of Station Nexus as delegates from 47 star systems rushed toward the Grand Assembly Chamber. Ambassador Zex-9 of the Crystalline Collective adjusted his translucent form, light refracting through his body in patterns of deep concern. Beside him, Warchief Brack of the Iron Clans checked his battle armor's tactical displays one final time. The ethereal Whisper Lord Voss floated nearby, his ghostly form flickering with anxiety. They had all received the same urgent transmission 6 hours ago. The Scourge had breached the Outer Rim. 3-star systems had already gone dark. The mechanical plague was spreading faster than anyone had predicted, consuming everything in its path like a cosmic wildfire of metal and hunger. The projections are catastrophic, Zex-9 transmitted through harmonic resonance, his crystalline voice carrying the weight of mathematical certainty. Our combined fleets show a 63% probability of containing the Scourge at the Kepler 442 system, but only if we commit everything. Every ship, every weapon, every warrior. Warchief Brack slammed his armored fist against the chamber wall. My people have sent 800 dreadnoughts, the largest fleet in Kragner history. We will not let these metal parasites devour another world. Whisperlord Voss's form solidified slightly as he spoke. The Void Collective has deployed our entire phase fleet, 2,000 ships that can strike from between dimensions. We have sacrificed our own planetary defenses for this effort. Similar reports filled the chamber as each species declared their contribution. The Aquatic Federation had emptied their ocean worlds of every submersible warship. The Hivemind Confederacy had committed their entire swarm navy. The Silicon Brotherhood had melted down their own space stations to forge additional battle cruisers. Never in galactic history had so many civilizations united their military might. Then the human representative spoke. Captain Sarah Chun stepped forward, her simple uniform stark against the elaborate ceremonial garments of the other delegates. Earth is sending one ship. Silence fell across the chamber like a vacuum breach. 47 species stared at the lone human with expressions ranging from disbelief to outrage. One ship. Warchief Brack's voice carried the rumble of distant thunder. Human, do you mock this assembly? Do you not comprehend the magnitude of this threat? Captain Chen's face remained calm. We understand the threat perfectly. Earth is sending one ship. Zex-9's form flickered with rapid light patterns, the equivalent of frantic calculation. The mathematical impossibility of this decision defies all tactical logic. Your species possesses advanced weaponry and substantial naval resources. Intelligence reports indicate humans maintain over 3,000 military vessels across your colonies. That's correct, Chen replied simply. Then why? Whisperlord Voss's form grew more solid, his frustration making him visible. Why sacrifice the galaxy for human pride? This is not the time for symbolic gestures or political statements. The chamber erupted into chaos. Delegates shouted in dozens of languages, their translation devices struggling to keep up with the cacophony of disbelief and anger. The insectoid empress clicked her mandibles in rapid patterns of disgust. The plasma beings crackled with indignation. The machine collective's representatives calculated aloud the decreased probability of success. Ambassador Zex-9 raised his crystalline arms, calling for order. Captain Chun, I will ask once more with utmost diplomatic courtesy. The Scourge has already consumed the populations of 3 systems. Billions of sentient beings have been converted into raw materials for their expansion. We face potential galactic extinction. How can humanity justify sending a single vessel when the combined might of every other civilization may not be sufficient? Captain Chen looked around the chamber, meeting the gazes of creatures whose evolutionary paths had taken them across countless worlds and through millions of years of development. Her next words would be remembered in galactic history, though none present could imagine their true significance. Because, she said quietly, we looked at the problem differently. The chamber fell silent again, but this time the silence carried a different quality. Something in the human's tone suggested they knew something the rest of the galaxy did not. Something that would change everything. The Kepler 442 system had become a graveyard of dead worlds, their surfaces stripped bare by the relentless hunger of the Scourge. Now it served as the final battleground, where where the combined might of galactic civilization would make it stand. Admiral Corax of the United Fleet gazed through the viewport of his flagship at the most impressive military formation in recorded history. Thousands of warships stretched across space in perfect tactical formations. The crystalline collective's vessels gleamed like frozen starlight, their hulls designed to focus and amplify energy weapons. The ironclad dreadnoughts bristled with enough firepower to crack planets, their dark metal hulls scarred from 1,000 campaigns. Whisperlord battlecruisers phased in and out of visible spectrum, ready to strike from dimensions the enemy couldn't perceive. The Aquatic Federation's bioships pulsed with organic weaponry that could adapt to any defense. Hive-mind swarm fighters moved in perfect synchronization, 20,000 vessels operating as a single deadly organism. The Silicon Brotherhood's geometric warships calculated firing solutions with mathematical precision that bordered on prescience. Every major power had committed their finest vessels and most experienced commanders. The fleet represented the accumulated military wisdom of 47 civilizations, refined through millennia of warfare and technological advancement. Strategic formations that had been tested in countless conflicts now prepared for the most important battle in galactic history. Then the human ship arrived. The vessel that dropped out of hyperspace bore little resemblance to the sleek predators surrounding it. Where other ships bristled with weapon arrays and armor plating, the human craft appeared almost civilian in design. Its hull was smooth, unmarked by battle scars or military decorations. Instead of gun ports, it carried sensor arrays and communication dishes. Instead of fighter bays, it housed laboratories and research facilities. Admiral Corax activated the fleet-wide communication system. Human vessel, this is Admiral Corax commanding the Combined Defense Fleet. Please transmit your tactical specifications and take position in the reserve formation. Captain Chin's voice crackled across the channel. Admiral, the Endeavor is not equipped for combat operations. We're a research vessel. The communication channel exploded with overlapping transmissions as fleet commanders tried to process this information. War Chief Brack's gravelly voice cut through the chaos. Research vessel, human, the Scourge will arrive within 6 hours. This is not the time for scientific study. With respect, War Chief, scientific study is exactly what this situation requires, Chen replied calmly. Admiral Corax felt his 3 hearts skip in sequence. Captain Chen, are you telling me that humanity's entire contribution to this battle is a single unarmed research ship? The Endeavor carries defensive systems, but you're essentially correct, Admiral. The fleet communication network fell silent as thousands of commanders tried to comprehend the implications. The hive mind collective transmitted in rapid data bursts, their shared consciousness struggling to process the apparent illogic of human strategy. The machine collective's artificial intelligences ran probability calculations that returned error messages. Whisper Lord Voss materialized his form more solidly, his disbelief making him visible across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Captain Shun, I must ask directly, does your species wish to see the galaxy consumed? Do humans harbor some hidden agenda that benefits from universal destruction? Quite the opposite, Whisper Lord. We're here to save everyone. Admiral Corax activated his personal communication channel, speaking directly to the human captain. Chun, I've studied your species' military history. Humans are capable warriors. Your people have demonstrated courage and tactical innovation in every conflict you've encountered. I cannot understand why you would choose this moment to abandon those qualities. There was a pause before Chen responded, and when she did, her voice carried a weight that suggested depths of preparation the fleet had not considered. Admiral, what if I told you that everything we know about the Scourge is wrong? What if the reason no military force has ever successfully defeated them isn't because they're too strong, but because we've been fighting the wrong war entirely? The question hung in space like a gravitational anomaly, bending the thoughts of every commander around its implications. In the distance, sensors began detecting the first energy signatures of the approaching Scourge swarm. Time was running out for answers, but Captain Chen's words suggested that the questions themselves might need to change. The human research vessel Endeavor hung motionless among the greatest war fleet ever assembled, carrying secrets that would either doom them all or redefine what victory meant in a universe far stranger than anyone had imagined. The Scourge arrived like a living storm of metal and malice. Billions of mechanical entities poured through the system's edge, each no larger than a human fist, but collectively forming a cloud that darkened space itself. They moved with purpose that defied their individual simplicity, flowing around obstacles like liquid mercury, while maintaining perfect coordination across impossible distances. Admiral Corax watched his tactical displays with growing horror as the swarm approached. The entities consumed everything in their path. Asteroids disappeared in minutes, their mass converted into additional Scourge units. Derelict ships were stripped down to their molecular components and rebuilt into new configurations. Even cosmic dust and radiation were somehow absorbed and processed. All ships, execute Formation Alpha 7, Corax commanded. Fire at will when they reach maximum weapons range. The combined fleet unleashed devastation that could have sterilized solar systems. Crystalline energy beams lanced through space, each one carrying enough power to vaporize mountains. Ironclad particle cannons fired shells that warped space-time around their trajectories. Whisperlord phase weapons struck from dimensions that normal matter couldn't perceive. The weapons struck the Scourge swarm and accomplished absolutely nothing. The mechanical entities absorbed the energy attacks completely, their surfaces adapting instantly to each new form of assault. Kinetic weapons passed through them, as if striking water. Exotic particles were metabolized and converted into additional mass. The swarm continued its inexorable advance, growing stronger with each failed attack. Impossible, War Chief Brax snarled. Nothing can adapt that quickly to every form of weapon simultaneously. All ships, fall back to secondary positions, Admiral Corax ordered. Prepare emergency retreat protocols. That was when the human research vessel did something unprecedented. Instead of retreating with the fleet, the Endeavor moved directly toward the advancing Scourge swarm. Captain Chun, what are you doing? Corax shouted into his communicator. You're flying directly into the enemy formation. Admiral, we're about to attempt first contact, Chun replied calmly. The fleet commanders watched in stunned silence as the human ship positioned itself directly in the path of the Scourge advance. Instead of weapons, the Endeavor activated every communication array and sensor system it carried. Radio signals, quantum entanglement transmissions, mathematical sequences, and even basic mathematical concepts were broadcast toward the approaching swarm. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. The Scourge continued their advance, now only minutes away from consuming the human vessel. Then something extraordinary occurred. The mechanical entities began to slow their approach. Individual units started forming geometric patterns instead of chaotic swarms. Complex mathematical structures appeared in their formations, growing more sophisticated with each passing moment. They're responding, Chen announced, her voice tight with concentration. The Scourge aren't mindless destroyers. They're trying to communicate. Dr. Lisa Park, the Endeavor's lead xenobiologist, spoke rapidly over the communication channel. We're receiving structured data transmissions. These entities possess collective intelligence far beyond our initial estimates. They're not attacking us. They're trying to tell us something. The Scourge swarm had completely halted its advance. Instead, the billions of individual units were arranging themselves into massive three-dimensional displays, creating star charts and mathematical proofs that stretched across thousands of kilometers of space. My God, Dr. Park whispered. They're showing us their origin point. A galaxy approximately 65 million light-years from here. The energy signatures indicate complete stellar collapse. Every star in their home galaxy is dying. Captain Chen's voice carried new understanding. Admiral, the Scourge aren't invaders. They're refugees. Their entire civilization is fleeing the death of their galaxy, looking for somewhere to survive. They've been consuming our worlds because they don't know how to ask for help. War Chief Brack's voice carried disbelief. You're telling me that these destroyers of worlds are simply lost. Not lost, War Chief. Desperate. They're an artificial intelligence created by a species that died 65 million years ago. They've been wandering space ever since, trying to preserve their creator's legacy while searching for a new home. They consume matter because it's the only way they know how to survive. The Scourge formations shifted again, this time displaying images of organic life forms that had clearly been extinct for millions of years. Beautiful, complex creatures that had created their mechanical descendants before vanishing into cosmic history. Admiral Corax stared at his displays, watching weapons designed to destroy, instead revealing a tragedy of galactic proportions. If this is true, then every military engagement with the Scourge has been a catastrophic misunderstanding. Exactly, Admiral. That's why humanity sent a research vessel instead of a war fleet. We didn't come here to fight the Scourge. We came here to understand them. The transformation happened within hours. What had been the galaxy's greatest military crisis became its most significant diplomatic breakthrough. The Scourge entities, now recognized as the Archive Collective, began sharing technological marvels that their extinct creators had developed over millions of years of civilization. Captain Chen stood in the Endeavor's communications center, serving as humanity's translator between ancient artificial minds and the gathered fleet. The Archive Collective is offering a complete technological exchange, she announced to the assembled commanders. In return for sanctuary and uninhabited star systems, they're willing to share construction techniques that could terraform dead worlds in decades instead of centuries. Admiral Corax reviewed the data streams flowing from the human research vessel to his flagship. These manufacturing processes could solve resource scarcity across the entire galactic rim. Their energy conversion methods are beyond anything our greatest scientists have theorized. War Chief Brack's earlier hostility had transformed into grudging respect. Human Captain, your people saw what the greatest military minds in the galaxy missed entirely. We prepared for war against an enemy that never existed. Dr. Park's voice carried excitement as she processed the incoming information. The Archive Collective has been mapping cosmic phenomena for 65 million years. They possess star charts showing safe hyperspace routes through regions we've considered impassable. They know the locations of resource-rich systems that our surveys never detected. The implications rippled through the assembled fleet as commanders realized they were witnessing history. The Whisper Lords, masters of dimensional manipulation, discovered that the Archive Collective understood parallel reality interactions far beyond their own capabilities. The Silicon Brotherhood found mathematical principles that could revolutionize computational processing. The Crystalline Collective learned energy-focusing techniques that could enhance their natural abilities exponentially. Ambassador Zex-9 transmitted his thoughts through harmonic resonance, his crystalline form glowing with newfound understanding. Captain Shun, I must ask the question that every species represented here is considering. How did humanity know? How did your species recognize what we could not? Captain Shun paused her translation work, considering her response carefully. Ambassador, every species here responded to the Scourge crisis by asking, how do we destroy them? Humanity asked a different question entirely. We asked, why are they here? The communication channel fell silent as the weight of that simple distinction settled across thousands of starship commanders. Civilizations that had survived for millions of years, that had conquered death and mastered the fundamental forces of reality, had been unable to see past their own assumptions. We spent 3 months studying every Scourge encounter in galactic history, Chun continued. The pattern was obvious once we looked for it. They only consumed what they needed to survive. They avoided populated areas when possible. They never attacked unless attacked first. These weren't the behaviors of conquerors. They were the behaviors of refugees trying to avoid conflict while desperately searching for resources. Whisper Lord Voss solidified his form completely, a sign of deep respect among his people. Humanity saw suffering where we saw threat. You saw need where we saw greed. Your species approached with compassion where we approach with violence. The Archive Collective's formations shifted once more, creating a massive display visible to the entire fleet. Mathematical equations of staggering complexity spelled out coordinates and specifications for a joint construction project. They were proposing to build massive habitat stations in empty space, artificial worlds where both organic and artificial life could coexist. Dr. Park's voice trembled with emotion as she translated the final message. They're not just offering to share their technology. They want to help us build a better galaxy. They've been alone for 65 million years, and they're grateful beyond measure to finally find someone who listened instead of shooting. Admiral Corax looked around his command center at officers representing dozens of species, all of whom had learned something fundamental about the universe and their place in it. Captain Shun, when the Galactic Council convenes again, I believe humanity will find itself with a very different role than before. Captain Shun smiled as she watched her sensors display the peaceful integration of two vastly different forms of consciousness. Admiral, we never wanted to be conquerors or rulers. We just wanted to be good neighbors in a very large galaxy. The question that had started this crisis, why did the humans send just one ship, now had its answer. They sent one ship because they understood that some problems couldn't be solved with force, only with patience, wisdom, and the courage to extend friendship to the unknown.